In this video, I'll show you the most commonly asked questions in Specsavers interviews and help you plan strong, confident answers that maximize your chance of getting that Specsavers job. So let's start with how to succeed at a Specsavers job interview. So we'll look at the basic things you need to get right and some tips on how to be successful. So the first thing is make sure you have all the documents they've asked for. So get a folder, get organized. If you forget these documents, it looks really bad and it could cost you the job. The next thing you do is make sure you are on time. So set your alarm early, leave far before you think, and make sure you're not late. If you're late, it will probably cost you the job. The next thing, make sure you dress appropriately formal. This is an interview. Take it seriously. If you turn up dressed informally, it will count against you. The next thing you want to do is know the person's specification. So take the time to really read the job description, read the person's specification if they provide one, and show them that you meet it. So in the interview, you want to be ticking off as many of those points because that's really what they're assessing you against. The next thing you need to do is know the questions they will ask. And that's why you're watching this video, because I'm going to break down the most common questions and then, more importantly, have good answers ready to go. So once you have seen the questions, we're going to plan some good answers that will help you get through these questions. So let's look at a super important one that Specsavers take very seriously, which is, what can you tell me about Specsavers? And they may ask about the history, they may ask the question exactly this way, or they may ask about different parts of the Specsavers business. And if you prepare for this question, you'll be ready for any sort of knowledge question that they may throw at you about the Specsavers business. And to be successful, you need to first know the basics. So take some time on Specsavers website, take some time to read about the company, and I will show you lots of things that I've already prepared that will help you to get started, but just taking some time to get familiar with the business is a great idea. Then what you want to do is you want to show that you're prepared. That's really what they're assessing here. If you've done your preparation, you look much better than someone who hasn't. And then to really show off, you want to impress them. You want to start talking about things that only people who've really researched the business would know. And I'm going to give you some great examples that you can take to your interview that not everyone knows. And if you talk about these things, you're going to really impress them. So let's look at the key facts that you talk about. So the first thing you can do is you can simply describe them as an optical retail chain. That's a simple way to describe the majority of their business. But then you go beyond it, go deeper. So you can say that they also offer audiology services, which is an add-on to their main optical business. They sell glasses, sunglasses, contact lenses, and hearing aids. They are the major business lines that they are involved in. They offer eye and hearing tests because people come in to have an eye test, and then from the results, they can decide that they need glasses or their prescription changes, and that is how they generate a sale. People come in for a hearing test, find a problem with their hearing, and then Specsavers is ready with hearing aids for them. The two businesses work together really, really well. One service supports another product. The next thing you can say is that they aim to provide excellent value for their customers, while at the same time being very customer-centric and providing outstanding customer service. So they've got great pricing, but they've got great customer service at the same time. You can also say that you've got the famous adverts. This should have gone to Specsavers, which is a leading part of their branding for a very, very long time. And that's a phrase that a lot of people know about. You can then talk about them being founded in 1984 by Doug and Mary Perkins. The business originally started on the small island of Guernsey, which is where the first store was opened. They are very strange in that they have a thing called a venture partnership. Now, you may think that Specsavers owns 100% of all the stores and that you're applying for a job to work just at Specsavers in the same way as working for any other company. However, it is different. The venture partnership is a little bit strange, and I'll explain how it works. And if you can explain this in your interview, that's really going to be quite impressive. So the stores tend to work on what you call A and B shares. So the B shares are owned by Specsavers. So Specsavers owns part of the business. But then the A shares are typically owned by the optometrist or the optician. And you also have the retail director who typically owns A shares as well. So the business is owned by Specsavers and the senior employees at the location. So it's not just Specsavers. It is a partnership between the people running the store and the company itself, and the two work together. So that makes it quite unique. So I would take some time to read about the venture partnership, and Specsavers have fabulous information on their website about it. And if you read that and are familiar with it and talk about it, that will really impress them, because a lot of people don't know that. The next thing you can say is that they have expanded internationally, and they're not just in the UK. They have business in a lot of other countries, particularly Australia being their leading market outside the UK. But they've also expanded into Canada and other parts of Europe as well, and are probably expanding even further by the time you watch this. The next thing you might want to mention is their charity support. They are very active in supporting charities and have raised quite a lot of money for them. So I'd look up what have they been doing recently with their charity work, how much have they raised, and you may want to say that that is something that you're really enthusiastic about and you would like to be involved in, because that's a really positive thing to say at an interview. So feel free to screenshot this, to write down any notes, and have a good answer ready to go and be confident talking about these things. The next one you want to be ready for is, what times can you work at Specsavers? And they want to hear the right things. Think about, if you own Specsavers, what would you want someone that you are thinking about hiring to say? And fundamentally, what they want is people who say yes. They may ask questions like, can you work on a Saturday? And remember, if they're asking about a Saturday, there's a reason. They have that Saturday in mind. They've put this job advert out partly because they need more staff on a Saturday. So if you say no to that, it's going to hurt your chance of getting the job. So remember, if they ask about any specific times, there is a reason for it, and you probably want to say yes. The more you say no, the less chance you have of getting the job. The next thing you want to do is show that you're open-minded. If you're very close-minded and saying no to lots of things, it's very negative. Things change a lot in businesses, and they would rather hire people that are open-minded and are not very close to working certain times. You want to be flexible, and fundamentally, you want to meet Specsavers' needs. They are running a business and they want it to be staffed to deliver their good and consistent customer service. And if you're helping to do that, you look a lot more like a good hire. So some answers that Specsavers like, and you can have a look at these and try and choose what matches what you have available. So one great answer would be to say, I have excellent availability and I am open to working shifts throughout the full range of opening hours. That really basically says I can do any time you need. While the store is open, I could work there, and I've not got many restrictions on my availability, and I'm super flexible. That really is a great answer. You could say, I'm happy to work around Specsavers' business needs. And if you're slightly more restricted in availability, but they do give you the specific times that they're interested in their advert, you could say, I could work all of the hours that you've stated on the job description. And that's a nice answer as well. So choose what works for you. Try and say yes as much as possible, and you're going to succeed on this question. The next one we want to be prepared for is, what is your biggest area for development? And you have to be careful with this. It's easy to say the wrong things, but I'm going to show you how to say the right things. So let's look at the first thing, which is to be reflective. They want people who know what they need to improve. You're showing off something that isn't perfect yet that you want to build on, and they want to see people that know their strengths and weaknesses. The next thing you want to think about is, how will you develop? You don't want to spend a lot of time talking about how your weakness is ruining your entire life, and that without this area of development, you're going to be completely useless at everything. You want to be spending the time talking about how you're going to improve rather than why it's such a problem. And most importantly, it should not be important to Specsavers. So whatever you say is your weakness should not be something that really matters very much to their business. The way that you answer it is to say, one area I have identified for future development is, and then say what your area is. And I'll give you some suggestions. Once you've said what it is, don't spend a lot of time on it. Move on quickly. Then you say, over time, to address this area for development, I plan to, and spend more time talking about what you're going to do about it. Are you going to go on a course? Have you bought a book that you're going to read that's going to help you learn this? Are you planning to develop this while you're working, and you're hoping to work with management and perhaps shadow or do something else that will help you develop this longer term? Some bad answers to avoid. So don't have any. To say you're a perfectionist, that's a terrible answer. Or say you have an intense fear of glasses or something else that is going to render you completely useless at working in the company. That is something to avoid. So just think, if you are hiring someone to work in Specsavers and they said that they need to work on this, would that stop you from hiring them? And if the answer is yes, don't say that. Then let's look at some things that you might want to consider. So if you only speak one language, that's something you can talk about as being a weakness in the area for development, and then you can talk about your plans of how you hope to learn another language in future. If you're applying at a junior level, you're not going to be in leadership, you're not going to be managing anyone, you're not going to be in charge of the business, but you may have ambitions to take on extra responsibilities. So you can say you're looking to develop your leadership because you've not been line managing or in charge of people before, which doesn't matter because you're applying for a role that doesn't involve that. If you're applying for a role that does involve leadership, don't say leadership's your problem. Public speaking, not something you're likely to do very often in a role in Specsavers, but it could be something you want to develop. And if you're not at a senior level and not likely to be writing big, long, complicated reports, you could say writing skills is something you're looking to develop because it's not going to be a big problem. So think up something that isn't essential to Specsavers, but something you could actually work on to improve. Perhaps choose one of my list. If not, think up something and discuss what you're going to do about it more than why it's a problem. And that's how you get through this question. The next one is super important, which is why do you want to work at Specsavers? And you need to have an answer for this. And I can't tell you why you personally want to work at Specsavers. So let's look at some suggestions for what you might actually want to say. So you might say something like, you know people that work there and they have recommended this as a great place to work. You could say that you see lots of career progression opportunities and talk about your long-term ambitions. You may say that you enjoy helping people and that when working in this role, you're going to be helping people find the right glasses. You're going to improve the quality of their life by matching them with the right products that are going to help them to experience the world that little bit better, to be able to see and hear more confidently. That you love the partnership model and you think that makes Specsavers unique and makes it better than a lot of their competitors. That you enjoy working with customers and talk about previous experience you've had working in retail environments and say that this is something that you really love doing. That you want an active job where you're not sitting behind a desk all the time, you're up and about and moving around and interacting with people. You may see this as a long-term career. If you do, that is a great thing to mention. That you've got previous customer service experience and you see that this job is a continuation of your experience and it is something that you're good at. That you enjoy meeting new people. You're in a store environment. People are coming in and out all the time. You're going to get to see lots of new, exciting and interesting people. That you love to work as part of a team. And so you want a job where teamwork is a really key part of that. That you've had positive experience as a customer. Maybe you've been going to Specsavers and your family's been going to Specsavers for many, many years. You had lots of positive experiences. And so you've got a positive impression of the company as a customer. You may have some qualifications. Of course, if you're applying as an optometrist or to do the optician's job, you will have certain qualifications that make this a really perfect match for your skills. If you are applying for a role as an optician, you may say that you've got an academic interest in optometry and look at the CPD and professional development that's available from the company and talk about that really positively as well as something that's attracted you to Specsavers. So feel free to screenshot this as well and start planning an answer around as many of these as match what you are thinking about why you want to work for Specsavers. Another question that they often ask is, sell these glasses to me. They may hand you a pair of glasses and ask you to sell them, or they may ask you to imagine how you would sell glasses to a customer or explain what's your process for selling. And this is something you have to be ready for. So let's look at a simple step-by-step process that works and passes this question. So the first thing you want to do is if they give you some glasses, or if they ask you to imagine selling glasses, is to sort of analyze them and know the sort of things that you would discuss when selling. So for example, you might think about the weight. So lightweight, that could be a real positive. So if you pick them up and they're quite light, you can say they're light and they're going to be really comfortable to wear. If they feel kind of heavy, you're going to refer to them as sturdy and strong. So regardless if they're heavy or light, you've got a positive thing to say about them. If they're rimless, you may say that it's easy to see, that you've got no rims around it, and some people find that very comfortable and it helps them to see more clearly, and it's quite stylish. You want to say positives about everything. If they're designer, you want to refer to them as being very high quality, that they're premium, and you may point out that the designer logo is prominent and you can see that it's a clear brand, and that might be quite motivating to people. You may look at the arms. Are they tapered? If they're tapered, that helps it to be lightweight. You can look at the arms and point them out as being quite comfortable and sitting on the face very well. If it looks like the arms are very well built and very strong, you could refer to them as being very secure, that those glasses are going to stay in place. So whatever you see on the glasses, you're going to refer to it as a positive. And then if it stands out in any way, if it's retro, you may discuss that. If there's any promotion associated with it, then that's something you talk about. If there's anything distinctive or stands out or makes them different to other glasses, talk about that as a real positive about these glasses. You ought to be really enthusiastic, and everything about them you want to be really positive. You try to sell them, so you want to be emphasizing the things that are good about these. The next thing you do is find out the customer's needs. So ask, what are you looking for in glasses, and match what they say to what you say. So you're going to discuss your analysis. So you've looked at the glasses and you've broken it down based on the things that I've talked about. You've asked them about your needs, or rather the customer's needs, and you're going to bring in your analysis, what you've spotted about it and what they've told you, and try and match these up. You may also give a personal endorsement. So you may say something like, I really love these glasses. I think these look fantastic. Or if you get the person to try them on, you can say that these look really great on you. Something that's really positive that gives your personal opinion as these glasses being good. And then fundamentally, what you're trying to do is match the glasses to the customer's needs. So you've asked what they're looking for, you've looked at the glasses and what they've got, and you're trying to match the two together, because that's how you're going to generate a sale. So that's how you can smash this question. And before we finish, here are some questions that you might want to ask Specsavers after the interview. At the end of the interview, they'll say, do you have any questions for us? And if you say no, that's very bad. Let's look at what you could ask them. So you could say, what do you enjoy most about working for Specsavers? And if they say, I really like this, actually say to them, yeah, I would really enjoy that as well. You could ask, is there anything that you would suggest that I do now to be well prepared for starting if successful? And if they suggest anything you could do, make a commitment to doing that. You may ask, can you tell me about the team you've built at this Specsavers and how my role fits into your team? That's quite a nice question to ask. You could say, I am, of course, very interested in this position. So can you tell me more about the next steps in the Specsavers recruitment process? And you probably want to know that anyway, so it's probably good to ask that if you're interested. And then to finish off, offer sincere thanks. Say you look forward to hearing from them, and end the interview on a positive. Do not ask about holidays, don't ask about time off, and don't try to negotiate your salary before they've given you a job offer. And that is how you can survive the last question in the interview. So I hope this was helpful. If it was, please like and subscribe. I wish you the best of luck in your Specsavers interview. And finally, thank you very much for watching.